Hey guys, welcome to my channel, and today I'm recording Cambridge O Level 5070 Paper 1. This is May June 2021. This is a multiple choice based paper where you have a multiple choice answer sheet given to you in the examination and you're supposed to mark the answers on it. So without any further ado, let's get started. So there are 40 questions, 40 multiple choice questions given to us in this paper, and we have 1 hour to solve it. Let's start with MCQ number 1. The formula of magnesium oxide can be investigated by using the fact that when magnesium is heated, it reacts with oxygen to form magnesium oxide. Which apparatus is used for this investigation? If you look over here, that we have 3 kind of apparatus given over here. One is the gas syringe, one is the balance, and the third one is the crucible. If you look over here, there is no such product which is a gas that we are supposed to collect. So our main goal is more related to weight and the crucible and balance. So for this, the answer is going to be D, and that is 2 and 3, balance and crucible. Moving on to MCQ number 2, which property of a liquid ester can be used to check its purity before used as a food flavoring? If you talk about checking purity, purity is majorly checked by one way, that is through boiling point. In case there is any kind of impurity in it, the boiling point will be increased, and this is how we can check that whether something is pure or not. So for this, the answer will be A. Let me mark it. For this it's D, and for this it's A. Moving on to MCQ number 3, which separation method would give pure samples of both substances from the mixture? We have 4 options given, and there are 4 mixture and 4 separation methods. The mixture over here, if we see copper sulfate crystals in water, the separation method is crystallization, ethanol and water evaporation, salt and sand filtration, and nitrogen and oxygen fraction distillation. This is very apparent because we need both substances with us in the pure form, like in its pure sample, like we require pure form from the sample, like both of the mixture, both of the contents of the mixture actually. So for this, we need to use such a method in which nothing is dispersed in the air or lost in the air, or it's something that is not the right method. So if we see over here, fractional distillation and nitrogen and oxygen is the best option. Other are not the right option. For instance, if we consider salt and sand for filtration, this is not a very convenient option since salt particles are also really huge and sand particles are also really huge. So for this, even if we use salt and sand through filtration, in any way we can add water in it and do it and then filter it. So yes, this can be a workable thing. We can use separation method to separate salt and sand, but if we use filtration to it, we need to add water in it, and then it will turn into a solution, and all in all, salt will turn into solution and sand will be separated, but all in all, we will not be able to achieve both the contents properly in pure form. So that is why we are going to go for fractional distillation. MCQ number 4 is an aqueous solution of J is colorless solution that contains cations and chloride ions. Separate samples of solution give a white precipitate with a few drops of aqueous sodium hydroxide and with a few drops of aqueous ammonia. Which statement about J is correct? If we look at it, we'll see that it cannot be Al3+, it cannot be aluminium, because if we look over here, we are reacting it with chloride ion, and if we separate samples of solution, it gives white precipitate with only few drops of sodium hydroxide and few drops of aqueous ammonia. Basically, I am sure many of you must have gone through a table in which you will know the color of various kinds of cations. When cations and anions, when they are reacted with sodium hydroxide and ammonia, both in limiting and in excess, so you will understand that what kind of reaction takes place if precipitate is formed, solution is formed, etc. So you can go through it. This is mainly something that you need to experiment, which I am sure many of you must have done in your labs. So if you look at option B, Fe2+, Fe2+ is a transition metal, it cannot produce white precipitate. Then when we add dilute nitric acid and aqueous barium nitrate are added to an aqueous solution of J, a white precipitate is formed. Again, this is not the right answer. When dilute nitric acid and aqueous silver nitrate are added in aqueous solution of J, a white precipitate is formed, which is the correct answer. So the answer for this is D. Moving on to question number 5. Gas X has the following properties. Now if you look at these properties, it is colorless, it has no effect on either damp red or blue litmus paper, no effect on lime water, and it is flammable. So what is gas X? So if you look over here, ammonia is a basic gas. If we put it in the presence of litmus paper, it's going to turn blue. So probably not, of course not ammonia in fact. If we look at chlorine is again not the right option. Hydrogen can be the option. Again, oxygen is not the right answer to it because it does not match the following property that is given to us. So for this, the answer is hydrogen. Moving on to question MCQ number 6, which statement about states of matter is correct? When a liquid freezes, it becomes solid and energy is released to the surrounding, which is of course correct because when something freezes, it's an exothermic process since it releases heat to the surroundings and hence it freezes. So this is the right answer for sure. However, let's go through the other option to get a bit of an idea that why they're wrong. Like for instance, when a liquid reaches its boiling point, it becomes a gas. The process is called evaporation. When something reaches its boiling point, that process is called boiling. Alright, and something becomes a gas throughout the process. If we talk about boiling point, if we talk about any kind of temperature, boiling point is only a certain temperature type of thing. There is a certain temperature for something. When it boils, it cannot boil below or after it. So if we look in this question, evaporation is something that can take place at any temperature. So of course it's not the right answer. Then looking part C, when a solid changes directly to gas, the process is called condensation. When something changes directly to gas, the process is not called condensation. Condensation is when gas turns into liquid, so it condenses. When a solid melts, the particles get further apart and have less energy, which is again not correct because when a solid melts, it has greater energy. Question number 7 says use periodic table to answer this question. Which two particles have the same number of electrons? If we look over here, it's very obvious that A is not the right answer because if we look over here, this is a noble gas that is from group 8 and this is calcium and they're both in its atomic form in the neutral form, so it's not the right answer of course. Left over here are doubts in Fe2 plus and Fe3 plus cannot be the right answer of course because they're both the same type of elements with different charge. That means their number of electrons definitely are varying. These two can be the options. Let's check them out. Na plus and potassium plus, let's go to the periodic table. If we look this periodic table with us, we have Na plus, right? So if you look at Na plus, we have total number of electrons are 11 and since it's plus, so in that condition we have 10 electrons. According to that MCQ, we have 10 electrons. And if you look at potassium, again it's K plus, so it will be having 18 electrons. So that cannot be the right answer since they are both not equal. Again, now moving to the next option, that was option D, I believe. It was calcium and scandium. Calcium was 2 plus. So if we look over here, it had 20 electrons in its neutral form. So if we are having like its ionic form, that is cation 2 plus form, so it is going to be subtracted with 2, which is going to give us an answer of 18. Alright, and if we see scandium was 3 plus, that is the charge on it was 3 plus, so 21 minus 3 is again 18. So these both are equal, hence the answer is scandium and calcium. So let's go back. Okay, so where will be? So for this the answer is D for sure. Moving on to question number 8, the table shows data for particles W, X, Y and Z. We have W, we have X, we have Y and Z. Proton numbers are given, neutron numbers are given and number of electrons are also given to us. The statements are correct. W and X are isotopes of the same element. Y is group 5 of here. Let's look into it. W and X are isotopes of the same element. Let's see if what are isotopes. Firstly, let's avoid the table and look into the fact what isotope is. Isotope is something that has the same proton number but different nucleon number and different neutron numbers. Hence, different nucleon number, of course. Nucleon mass, nucleon number you can say. Atomic mass, atomic mass and nucleon numbers. So let's see W and X, they have the same proton number, satisfies. If we see over here, we have different nucleon numbers, so of course this is correct. If we look over here, Y is in group 5 of the periodic table. For something to be in group 5, it should have 5 electrons in its outer shell. Its valence electron must be 5. So if we look into it, where is Y? We have Y over here. Number of electrons is 7. Let's draw its electronic configuration. It's going to be 2 in its outer shell. And since we have 7 total, so 5 is left. So 5, 6, 7, right? So this is again correct. And then moving on to part 3, Z is a cation. Let's look at Z. If we look at Z, we have 8 proton numbers and electrons are 10. That means it has a charge of 2 minus. That makes it an anion, not a cation. So for that, the answer must be A, 1 and 2. So now moving on to MCQ number 9. MCQ number 9 says which dot and cross diagram correctly shows a molecule of ethene. Ethene, what is the formula of ethene? It's C2H4. So if you look over here, this is C2H4 and this is C2H4. However, this is not C2H4, so these both cannot be the right answer at all. Now looking into them, that which one of them is correct. So if we look over here, we have C. Okay, so always remember, because you're talking about ethene, which is an alkene, so it should have double covalent bond. So of course this is not the right answer because it does not show double covalent bond. Here we have the right number of bonding shown. It's a double covalent bond, so the answer for this is D. Moving on to MCQ number 10. The names and formula of 3 nitrogen compounds are shown: ammonia, hydrazine, hydroxylamine. And which compound has the highest relative molecular mass, Mr, and in which compound is the percentage of mass of hydrogen the greatest? So if we look over here, the highest Mr will be the one that has greater number of molecules and heavier molecules. Greater number of molecules and heavier molecules. If you look over here, so we have oxygen over here, which is again having 16. So its Mr will be greatest because they are all similar and it has greater number of molecules. So it should be NH2OH with the highest Mr. So it can be either C or D, but what's the right answer? Let's look into it. Greatest percentage by mass of hydrogen. If you look over here, the ratio is 1:3 of nitrogen is to hydrogen. While if you see over here, it's 1:2 for nitrogen is to hydrogen. So of course the answer is N2H4. So the answer for this is D. And sorry, not D. C. I thought that's NH3. So of course it's not N2H4. It's going to be NH3 since it has a greater ratio over here. And the question talks about greater percentage by mass. So this is it for this video. We have done 10 MCQs. I'm going to be solving the rest of the MCQs in my upcoming videos. Make sure to like, share, subscribe. Also ring the bell icon so you're updated with whenever I post a new part or a new video, a new year. Also, I've solved a lot of theory papers. Make sure you go and check them out. I'll drop the links of them in the description below. Thank you so much for watching and best of luck for your exams.